Those two different scenarios are much different. You're coming on strong to support and bring value, but you're coming on strong to talk about yourself. I think that's when extrovert misses the point, when it's ego and all about them. Transformational, not transactional. Remember that.
How do you connect millionaires and billionaires, transforming introductions into multi-million dollar partnerships? Join us on Seek, Go, Create the Leadership Journey as we dive deep with Steve Ramona, the mastermind behind the Pantheon Alliance Mastermind, a network comprising over 55 millionaires and billionaires. Steve is not only the founder of the #1 ranked small business marketing podcast, but a super connector who has mastered the art of networking with a servant's heart. His podcast, Doing Business with a Servant's Heart, I just power listened to a few episodes this morning, has reached thousands, teaching them the transformative power of service in business. Today, Steve shares his unique approach to building influential connections and fostering partnerships that not only succeed, but also serve. I'll bring Steve on in just a second, but before I bring our guest on, I want to thank everybody out there who has been supporting this show. This podcast is something that I truly enjoy doing, and it really just puts a smile on my face when I have these tips coming in. It makes it even better. If you go to seekgocreate.com/support, you can leave a tip and just let us know how much you support us. And I want to just give a shout out. Yesterday, I got an email that GJ sent a gift of $64, kind of a random number there, but thanks GJ for $64. Buy me some coffee and maybe a sip of whiskey or something like that, and I will toast you as I do that. So thank you all so much for listening, sharing, and GJ for sending that financial support in. I really appreciate it. All right, now, Steve, let's jump in. Welcome to Seek, Go, Create.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I love the tips thing too.
I mention it from time to time. I thought it'd be great to mention it with this episode. And it's just something that's like they come in, we get these messages, and it's incredible. I love it. So, hey, let me jump to my first question, Steve. And this is going to be great with someone who's a self-titled super connector. If I ask you what you do, we're just out and about, what do you tell people?
I'm a partnerships JV guy. I look for people, partnering them up, whether with me or with other people in my massive network, and I promote them. I highlight them, and I use my podcast as my SOP, my standard operation position process. By meeting people, as I meet people on my podcast, it allows me to see if there's a fit. And I just came back from an event last week. I met a number of billionaires who want to partner up with me and do work with me. And we'll talk more about that, but it's all about the service that you bring and the value.
Yeah. And I love the word partnership. And I think what I want to do first is I want to pick that apart just a little bit, because I think that's a word that, like a lot of words, there's words that are thrown around that I don't think people grasp. Sometimes they're superficial, but there's depth to it. How do you define partnership? What does that mean to you?
Fantastic question, Tim, because it's not being done a lot. So it's unique and different, which is not a good thing, but it is what it is. And I mentor entrepreneurs, and I tell them all the time, you want to go it alone, or do you have some partners that can work together? In our mastermind, we're going to give you guys a secret tip that we do. We call vertical integration marketing. For example, you can have a mindset coach, business coach, SEO expert, and a website developer. Steve Ramona is their potential client. The website guy does my website. Then he goes to the SEO guy, give it more value. Then I go to the mindset coach to help my mindset in my business. Then I go to the business coach to take care of my processes. But each time I'm passed around, one, they're getting people they know. So it's a warm referral, which I love. I'm not a cold referral guy. But as I'm given to the SEO guy pays me a little bit. Let's say it's a $5,000 job. He sends me $500. And then the SEO guy sends him to the business mindset coach. Okay, it's 10,000. Okay, he gets 1,000, whatever that number is. So you can see everybody's winning by referring. Get a client, I'm going to charge this. But this opportunity of commissionable referrals is so powerful because it's a win, win, win. Now people ask me, Tim, what about the client? Well, they just got 4 business owners who are probably have the same mindset. They all work together. And guess what? As the website guy's working on that, he can talk to the mindset coach guy. Hey, what did you find out? How can I make the website a little better from what you've learned? So now you've got a community of partners working to make that client bigger and better.
Hello, Seek Go Create listeners. This is Tim Winders. Let's take a short break. Have you ever caught yourself dreaming about a future where your leadership not only achieves its goals, but also inspires those around you? As an executive coach, I specialize in transforming those dreams into achievable visions. With my coaching, we don't just chase goals, we create legacies. Drawing from my own experiences and a faith-driven approach, I help you align your professional ambitions with your deepest values, ensuring a journey that is both successful and fulfilling. If you're ready to carve a path that is authentically yours, it's time for us to talk. Visit timwinders.com/coaching to schedule a free discovery coaching call. Yes, you and I'll just get on the phone and have a call. Again, that's timwinders.com/coaching, and you could read some more information and then schedule a call right on my calendar. Let's turn your vision into reality. Now back to Seek, Go, Create. Yeah. So is money always attached to partnership?
Doesn't have to be. My partnerships, I'll give you a great example. I had 2 ladies I introduced. I do 20, 30 introductions a week. I have all the time. And I get 3 to 5 referrals a day because of the partnerships, of the value I bring. We'll talk about that later. But these 2 ladies, they do energy healing, communication. And so I put them together about 3 months ago. Well, I get an email 6 weeks ago, Steve, you're so awesome. We've partnered up. We're doing an event in Hawaii in January. We're doing a couples reunion, 10 couples, and they're going to split about 30,000 each. Plus one of them is coming from Chicago to go to Hawaii. She's bringing her family. They do the same thing. They found a way to partner up one lady's expertise, the other lady's expertise, and they're going to serve couples with communication, with Reiki, energy healing, and all that great stuff. These ladies are not millionaires and billionaires. They are just everyday coaching folk that want to be unique and different and grow.
Yeah, the reason why I bring that up, partnership, we've got, I've done some work in ministry. I do a lot of work, obviously, with businesses and leaders of companies and things like that, Steve. And the word partnership, first of all, there's a legal aspect to it. I mean, I was with a company this last week down in Atlanta, and we were doing some legal partnerships. If you and I started a company and we set up a limited liability company or something, there's a legality to it. And then if we jump over to the ministry side, there's this weird thing where if someone sends a ministry a check on a regular basis, I'm on the board of a few ministries, they use that term partner. I've never liked that. I don't think it's good. It's not just like someone giving money. And I love what you're talking about, and I love we're going to dive deeper into it, that partnership is much deeper. And I think it has much more connection than, number one, just financial, and number two, just meeting, calling someone a partner. Agree?
I totally agree. And I just came back from last week in Utah at an event. I met a very wealthy man. He wants to partner up with us with our company. That's a management company. We fund companies and we help them direct. Again, we're going to have contracts, MOUs, and all that. But the basis of our conversation was, I can help you, you can help me. Game changer. That's at a multi-million-dollar level, or it could be at the $10,000 level. Partnerships are 2 people working together, 3 people, 20 people. But that word partner, like our romantic partners, our wives, what is that? We're working together to accomplish that.
Yeah, and there needs to be benefit to both. I think, both of us, for those that might be watching this on YouTube, they could see that we're not fresh out of college or high school guys. We've got a few years on us. Seasoned is a word I'm trying to use more and more, Steve. But I think back to some times. I mean, I'm kind of a product of the 80s is when I was in college and learning things. And there seemed to be, and maybe it was just me, this mindset of in transactions, one person would attempt to take advantage of another person, which to me is the opposite of partnership. But, you've got a few years on you. Has this philosophy, has it changed over the years? Are we seeing some different trends? Or is it just part of the life cycle that some of us go through? We get older, seasoned, and we start thinking about longer term
Yeah.
type things. And, whatever the answer is fine.
Yeah, it's blown up since COVID, and now we've got elections. It's October 2022. It's the wars. There's so much going on. That FOMO, fear of missing out, and I get pitched every day for my part. You probably do too, and you know what I'm talking about. And I love that you said transactional because I speak around the country and talk to mentor entrepreneurs and business owners. Be transformational, not transactional. The transaction will come. And guess what? It may not come from that person. The how, when, or where, and you said ministry, I call it God's currency. If you're not a believer, that's okay. We call it university currency. It will pay you back. And for me, it's been tenfold. Last year was my best year ever. I'm 62 years old. It came out of nowhere until I realized, and Timmy, I know with ministry, you understand this, is serving people by bringing them value with no thought of a transaction at all. And as I told you earlier, I get 3 to 5 referrals a day for my podcast, for my business. Hey, you just need to meet Steve. He's got this massive network. He's a super connector and exciting. I'm blessed by God because I have an opportunity every day to bless other people.
Yeah, I love you brought up the currency. One of the things we discuss here a good bit with the background that I have, and a lot of people that listen in too, is that there is a different currency in the kingdom of God than there is in the world system. And what we're doing, we're not manipulating it. We're just playing to that system. And so part of it's love and things like that. We'll talk more about that. The big question I have, Steve, and we don't shy away from people's background and stories here. Big question I've got is, have you always been this way? Or what are some things along the way that have impacted this mindset that you have?
Well, at 18, just graduated high school. I was going to go into community college and play community college football. And my family had launched a health club, a very customer centric health club. We wanted to be different. We wanted to serve. And one of the things my cousin Jeff Ramona, love him to death, he was a great mentor for me, was when somebody walked in the door of the health club, say their name. Hey, Tim, welcome to the club. Just look on the computer screen. You've just run their car and go, oh, hey, Tim, they're not going to know the difference. But just that little act of kindness, of value service, of saying somebody's name is a game changer. And I realized as I started doing that and started getting deeper conversations and building relationships with very 40, 50, 60, 70-year-olds, and I'm only 18, he started taking me out to lunch, to dinner, doing different things. And the power of it was I was building a network I didn't even know I was building. And when we sold in 2000, I probably had thousands of people in that network, serving them all the way, walking through the club. Hey, how you doing? How's your baby? Hey, how you feeling? Whatever it is, just building and bringing value to people. I helped launch a restaurant after I left the club. I took my whole network from the health club and brought them to the restaurant. We were a fast growing restaurant because my whole network, I built a relationship, wanted to come see me, wanted to come eat at the restaurant. That's a huge tip. If you want to grow your business, start building your network today by bringing value, servicing them, and doing great things for people.
So one thing, one quick sidebar, Steve, I think my camera's frozen, but I don't know if you can see me. You see what I look like. That's pretty much it. So it sounds like sound's still coming through. So we'll assume everything's picking up and all that. But one thing that comes up, Steve, related to this, a lot of people, when we start talking networking, they use, I don't want to say excuses. Let's just say they say, that's not my personality. I'm an introvert. And some of that, there may be some validity to it, but pre-18, I hate to go back that far, knowing how old we are here. We're about the same age. Pre-18, would you consider you're extrovert, outgoing, people, person, all those type descriptions would probably describe you, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So if somebody's sitting here going, yeah, well, I just need to check out on this conversation because I'm not Steve's personality or even Tim's. Listen, if somebody's doing a podcast, that tells you something about it too, because we're kind of cut from the same cloth. But I've been around people and they will say, well, you just like going up and talking to people and I don't really do that and all that. What would you say to somebody that said something like that? It's like, that's just not me, or that's not the way I'm wired, personality, something like that. Just respond to that. Give either encouragement or correction or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, Tim. Introverts, you have an advantage. It's a huge advantage. And they'll look at me and go, what? What are you talking about? Well, I call it the ASLA principle, ASLA. Ask, shut up, listen, and ask. So you're an introvert and you're listening to this great show. Have 3 questions when you meet somebody for the first time in person or in your head. Maybe the 3 questions are, what are your challenges in your business? What's your goals? Do you have a family? Those 3 questions will spark a conversation that you can start asking questions, because I say ask, shut up, and listen, because a lot of people, if you've been to a Zoom room, which we all have been with a networking group or a business, and some of the screens go black. Now, they may be going to the bathroom, they need water, and that's, it's not an excuse, it's a reason. But let's think about it. Are they really listening? When I stop my video and I go to the bathroom, whoever's speaking, am I hearing them? Absolutely not. So when you shut up and listen, because that's a huge bridge, because a lot of people shut up and turn their video off, but are they listening to what's happening? You can just listen about what Tim is, what he's passionate about, what his challenges are. That's why I love podcasting. We'll get in maybe later. But we use the ASLA principle, introverts. All you have to do is ask a question and shut up, because that's what introverts want to do. They want to shut up, and they're great listeners. You guys, I had to learn a lot from our introverts about listening. I was terrible at it 2 years ago. Podcast has helped. And that's what I do. I jump on a call. I was on a call yesterday or Saturday with a gentleman, very faith-driven, incredible obstacles in his life. And I just shut up and listen. And I said, here's a couple things for you. Here's an introduction. I got an email from him about a paragraph long, said, you've completely changed my thought, my story. I am so excited to work with you. I really appreciate your time. From the ministry of God or from the universe, that's what service is about. All I thought about as I was listening to him, how can I support, help, and bring value to him? If you do that in every call, anytime you engage with people, game changer for your business. It's been for me, it's been for a number of people that have followed that. And it could be as little as, hey, you've got a great smile. Or I love your background, your video. Or you see somebody in person, I did in church on Sunday. Hey, your baby's so beautiful. I love her curls. Well, it affected her maybe 3 seconds, 3 minutes, 3 weeks, 3 months. That doesn't matter. It's when you make it an effect and bring value to people, game changer.
It is interesting that you bring up introverts, because many times people are turned off by extroverts. We, at times, I know I can do this, come across as too strong, can run people off, too much energy. I mean, I've walked in rooms and gotten so excited when there's 20 people in the room, you scare some people. Talk a little bit about that, because that is something that those of us on our side of the introvert extrovert scale, we have to be mindful of also.
Okay. Tim, huge kudos. Nobody's asked that question. I've done 150 shows this year. That's the first time. I don't think I've ever been asked that. Here's the power of an extrovert that you want to do that I've done, because I always felt the same thing, Tim. We're like brothers from another mother, is I'm coming too strong. And I'm getting responses. Steve, I love it. I'm an introvert. And what I do is I bring value. And I come on strong and I'll talk about myself and I'm the greatest guy and I'll make all kinds of money because I do this and this and this. I think that's what pushes people away. But if you come in saying, hey, Tim, oh my God, I'm so excited. Here's a referral for you. And by the way, here's a tip to help with your podcast. Somebody else told me, I think it would help your podcast. Check it out. Let me know how it goes. Those 2 different scenarios are much different. You're coming on strong to support and bring value, or you're coming on strong to talk about yourself. I think that's when an extrovert misses the point, when it's ego and all about them. Transformational, not transactional. Remember that, audience. Transformate people and do that in your personal life. I'm learning to do that better in my life, is being real, being value-driven, being resource-driven, edifying. You learn to do all that, and it's not hard to do. It's powerful.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about it, I was thinking back, Steve, back in the 90s, I was an engineer. I came out of Georgia Tech as an engineer, but I would not have been considered an introvert. My wife and I got involved in, I think they call them network marketing, multi-level type marketing businesses. And I was pretty excited because I had some skills to get out and do that. But one of the things I noticed, this is real important, I think, for the transformational versus transactional. I was going out and meeting a bunch of people. We're going to talk about that here in just a little while because I know this is an important part of this. I was meeting a bunch of people, but Steve, what I noticed is that everybody I met had a dollar sign on their forehead for me. And that dollar sign changed the way I interacted with them. And the opposite of that is something that you speak about. It's the title of your podcast, and it's got this term servant's heart in it. So I think this is a good time to go ahead and throw that servant's heart into the mix here. When did that come in? When did that come into play for you? When did you start recognizing and realizing the need for a servant's heart?
I've been in network marketing. I was in network marketing for 10 years. Probably 5 or 6 years ago, I left it.
Yeah, same here. About
It-
10
it-
years during the 90s for us. It was good. I don't say anything negative. I learned a ton from it.
I think if me and you started a company and did the service part of it and taught people business, because they lose sight of it being a business and being a servant. And if somebody says, no, hey, Tim, that's okay. If you don't like the product, you're not interested. You know, anybody wants to sleep better. Let's say, I'd love an introduction and walk away from that. So on the respect of when I learned all this was about 2.5 years ago. I knew I'd been serving. I'd done $25 million in partnerships over the last 11 years. I probably made $10,000. I'm not complaining about that. And here's why. This gentleman, Joey, I started talking to him. We were on a get to know one-on-one, and he sounded like he was doing really well. Don't usually ask this, but I said, how well is well? Because I did 250 million in sales last year. I'm like, holy moly, can I get a little secret sauce here? So he said, I wake up in the morning serving and I go to bed serving. I serve my competitors, their collaborators, my employees. That's my focus. And of course, he does other things. He said, how do you serve? And I said, Tim would go, I go to you, Tim, and go, here's a couple of introductions. You'd come to me and go, how can I support you? And I'd go, oh, put my hand up, which is the worst thing you could do. He said, you just turned Tim into a taker because you've given him some gifts. But when they ask to support you, you say no. So they're not constantly walking away saying, where an a-hole Steve is. I'd never work with him again because it's not conscious level. It's the unconscious God universe level that they want to help. They want to do more things for you. And I started doing that, Tim. And that's when these abundance came, guests, people that were rock star guests, celebrities, football players, NFL. Because I would ask, I'm looking for pro athletes, celebrities, high income business owners.
So what would have
That
happened?
is powerful.
Yeah, if I'm doing the math here, you learned this at about 60 years old. That's how old I am. I'm about to be 61. When this releases, I'll be 61 years old. And I'm in a similar situation. There are things that I'm learning today that I'm going, oh my gosh. I mean, this is like game changer stuff, not necessarily rocket science either. And I've always considered myself a reasonably bright guy. What would you have done differently, or what would have been the different results over the years had you had this mindset 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago? I mean, you had some of it, it sounds like, when you were standing there at the health club and moved into the restaurant. You had some of the foundation, but there is a mindset you've got to have.
You've never asked. So let's take the 25 million in approximate. 10% is usually the rule. I'll use the low number. That's 2.5 million over 10 years. I think anybody honest will go, I'd take that. Because I never asked, hey, you guys, here's a partnership. They go out and make millions or hundreds of thousands. And I'm happy because I took care of them. But I'd be much happier if I asked, by the way, hey, let me put you guys together and can we get a commission referral? Doing it today and people are giving me money left and right. They're more than welcome to. I brought them value. I brought them gifts. And Tim, what I call it is the Christmas gift. And let's think back, all of you, when you were 6 or 7. I think no 6 and 7-year-olds are listening to this, but all you adults, and when Christmas morning hit, you got up at 6 a.m. or early, you ever got up as a kid, you ran to the tree and you opened that gift. You're so excited. Got my bike. Oh my gosh. But what have you done during the last couple of weeks in school? You've probably made some type of gift for your parents. Maybe you got a gift for your siblings, uncle, grandpa, whoever it may be. That gift exchange is what I get to do every single day. Like today, being the best host to your podcast to motivate, inspire, and educate your audience. It is the best feeling. So if you have that mindset of a Christmas gift exchange, it's so cool.
And it's Christmas every day. Isn't that what we've always dreamed of? Having Christmas every day?
Amen.
Yeah, I'll always kind of telegraph when I'm about to go cynical. And this is maybe a little bit of a cynical question, but aren't most people out there in the world takers? Doesn't it seem as if the reason we're in sort of the position we're in is because there's so many takers out there, Steve?
Absolutely. And I talk to people all the time, and the comment I get, Steve, I got bills to pay. I need to make money. I need to do that. And I completely understand. I do not push that away. And I don't judge. The Bible tells you never to judge. I used to do that, and I've learned a lot with my ministry in Christianity to not judge. But you also have to have a process in your business to make money. And that means building a network by bringing people value. Not every person I meet, I try to bring them all value, and I probably do 95% of the time, but they all don't partner with me. So I want to get that out there. This is not true woo-woos like, Steve affects everybody. I don't. But if you have the mindset and the great word you said earlier, Tim, of being able to bring value, it's great. They talk to somebody, oh, Tim, he's got a podcast, or I'm a podcast production. He needs to hire me because I could triple, quadruple, 10 times his subscribers. I know nothing about Tim. How are you going to be able to help somebody if you don't know anything about them? What you don't know, you don't know. That's not the great way to keep a business. And I call this, Tim, short-term thought process or long-term. The short term is I sell you right away and you start becoming a client. Now, maybe you stay for a while, but the majority of the time you don't, because I've not built that relation. You hire me, we start doing your podcast, producing them, doing all that, and maybe you're happy, but there's no relationship. But if you do long-term and you spend time with them, maybe it's 2 or 3 meetings, maybe you give them a free production of your podcast. I believe if you have a servant's heart, you're going to give your IP away for free. Now people go, holy mackerel, Steve, they're going to steal everything. Not one person I've talked to that does that stuff. I do a free podcast workshop every month for free. I do it for 6 months. I have no problem. If somebody wants to take my system and run with it, more power to them. But most of the time, they're going to need you because you're the one who built that system. You're the one that managed that system. You're the one who created that system. But when you do free stuff, it talks to you. It loves that.
Well, if you go back to the thing you've brought up at least 3 times, and that it's transformation, not transaction. I've lost a little bit of count, but let's just use that as a foundational principle, that transformation takes a lot of variables. There's a lot to that. A transaction is just a cha-ching cash register or an online transaction, and you're done. You can move on. And truthfully, you can never interact again. A lot of people, that's the way they look at it. But transformation, to kind of tie it to a principle that we hear about a good bit in church world, and I don't think they do very well at it, by the way, just so I'm a little bit critical, is discipleship. It takes time to transform. It takes patience. Like you said, short-term versus long-term. I mean, the reason that I call myself a coach and not necessarily a consultant is that I want to develop long-term relations. I mean, every client I have, I've been working with for a long period of time. Most of them I've known for 20 plus years. And someone asked me recently, I need to talk to a former client. And I went, I don't have a former client. Still working with all of them. Well, somebody did an exit recently. So, we built their company to sell anyway. And I do think that goes back to this servant heart that we've talked about. And we've sort of moved all around defining and all that, but talk to me more about that. Tell me when you say servant heart. I mean, it's in the title of your podcast, it's servant heart.
Yep.
Tell me more about that because I think a lot of people miss.
Great value adds here. One thing with a servant's heart, we all have bad days. We're human. God made us fallible. God made our business fallible. We have the ups and downs. You entrepreneurs, business owners, people out there, even though you're 8 to 5, that's what it is. But here's the power of service. I tell people all the time, when you have a day that's just not working and you're getting a little anxiety and stress, walk away from the office and go out and serve. And I'll use a great example. A few years ago, 2 o'clock, a couple of canceled appointments, a contract didn't go through. Typical, not a good day. I went to the grocery store and I'm sitting in line by my groceries for the family. And there's a lady in front of me with a baby. And me and you get this is Holy Spirit calling me I'm going to buy her groceries. We hear stories, people buying the Starbucks behind, which is all really cool. So the clerk is long haired. I'm in Northern California, surfer dude. He's like, dude, nobody does that. What are you doing, dude? I say, here, just take my credit card, just something I want to do. And she's like saying, no, no, no. And they finally let me do the transaction. I do my transaction. I walk out and her name's Debbie. And I say, I'm Steve. Nice to meet you, cute baby. And she starts tearing up. And I apologize. I said, I didn't want to upset you. She goes, oh, no, 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 no. My husband lost his job last week. And that $30 in groceries you bought, I didn't know where we were going to get the money from or how it was going to affect our life. You gave us the end of the week or early next week another opportunity to spend $30 on groceries. Now, I didn't know about it. That's what a servant's heart does. We don't know what people's shoes are walking into. I didn't know hers. I just have that mindset of value. I wanted to help her. I had a calling. I wanted to serve her, which I did. But here's the power of serving that people forget. What is she going to do, audience, when she goes home? She's going to tell her husband the story. Oh my God, I met this guy, Steve. He bought her groceries, whatever they say. What is their next step? What are they going to do? They're probably going to serve somebody else most of the time. So service leads to more service, leads to more service, leads to more service. And that's my excitement about this. And I've been doing for so long now, I realize and I've had it happen. Hey, Steve, thanks for serving me. I reached out and helped somebody else because of your service. We start bringing this around and put a big hug around this as a world. A lot of these problems we have will probably diminish a lot.
There are some people that may be listening in that will consider this a tactic. It's like, okay, I'm going to start doing servant's heart and I'm going to go buy somebody groceries. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good deed, but it's a tactic. It's not what I would call a base level character type issue. And I guess it leads to the question, and this is the question I'll ask, can someone have a servant's heart part-time? Can they flip it on and flip it off? Or is it just who they are?
That's a good question. I try to tell people all the time have that value. I do. That's my superpower. I've learned to talk about and I know it is because I get responses all the time. Even part-time is better than no time. That's my first thought about that. If you're twice a week going out serving people, on a quick note, you don't need to buy somebody's groceries. I've told people, why don't you call your best friend you haven't talked to in a while? And this lady did it. And the best friend said, oh my God, I've been thinking about you. I feel bad at what happened last year. I'm glad you reached out. Did they serve their best friend? Absolutely. So we want to keep in context what service is. It's bringing value. It's uplifting, transforming people. Very little or a lot. So yeah, if you're doing it part-time, I'll take that all day. It's like I think of prayer and ministry. I try to pray every day, but I've missed days. Am I a bad person? Absolutely not. Just try to make it part of your life as much as you can.
And truthfully, something's better than nothing. And I'll call it a glow, and I don't know if that's a good technical word, but the glow you got at the grocery store is probably something that you couldn't just like walk away and say, okay, check that off. I'm going to go back to my transactional ways. This is something I've observed. I notice that I am not quite as in that servant mode as I like to be when I'm fatigued, tired, There's a lot floating around in my head, things, and I used to not think about that much 10, 20 years ago. Maybe I could just run off adrenaline. But Steve, I do think there's just a healthiness that makes it flow better. Does that make sense?
Lots.
If I'm tired, sometimes I'll revert to being a little bit short tempered. And especially this is unfortunate around the ones that I love, family. You know what I mean? I'm not like the outgoing, super duper friendly dude and all that. Talk more about that. How important is it to just be not just mental and in the game, but just kind of like, I don't know, rested?
I love glow and flow. Great combination of words because I'll give you another story. I did, as I do introductions to this lady, Katie, she let me use her name. So I introduced her to 3 people. I thought they'd be good partners, can work together, a lot of synergy. Well, for 6 weeks, she finally answered. And if you get an introduction, try to do it within 48 hours while the energy's high. Things happen. And in this case, it did. And she followed up with all 3 of them because I was on the email thread. And I apologized, but I had some problems with my special needs twins. So they went through in a couple of days. I get an email from Katie. I've saved it. She goes, "Oh my God, Steve." And she said something about, "I'm speechless, but I'm typing this. I don't know how I can be speechless. LOL." She goes, "You introduced me to those 3 people, and I really appreciate that. But you don't know what you just did. Those 3 people gave me resources that I've been trying to find for 15, or their kids are 8. So I think she said 7 years, 3 conversations, 30 minutes each, an hour and 30 minutes. You've completely changed my family's life. And I have to thank you so much." I'm sorry. It just, those are the things that want me to serve more. So when you say glow and excitement when you're tired, just think about those responses that you get from people, and you're going to want to keep serving more. Doesn't cost you anything, maybe a little bit of time, but the word ROI, which is the business term of that. I mean, I have that email now, like I said earlier, I've saved it. I'll read it a couple times a month. And I get not to that level, but more stuff like that. "Hey, you got to meet Steve. He's a great guy. He just wants to take care of people. He cared about me." That builds on itself like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And like we said earlier, if we could, one person at a time, one act at a time, serve someone at a time, the world's a better place. I think more people need to consider that our role here is to make it a better place, whatever that looks like. Different people have different assignments. I think what I'd love to do here now, Steve, is move into talking some skills that are involved with this, some specifics, because at the beginning you talked about partnership and how that's led to definite financial gain. I didn't want to jump right on the money part of it immediately because I wanted us to layer that to build back up, to let people know, don't start making this transaction because it's transformational. It's not transactional. But is there anything else we need to address with the mindset before we talk about some maybe specific skills? Just mindset first, or before we move on?
Like any habit, I believe this is a habit. I'm out every day, like I've said earlier, looking at how I can serve people. Practice it. Write it down. Write down every time you've done service to somebody. Write down how you felt. Write down how they felt. Like a lady reached out. She goes, I just helped a lady get her groceries in, and she was so thankful, and she's so nice and so sweet. I wrote that down. And then at the end of the week, read all those different scenarios that you served. How did they feel combined? How did you feel combined? And most importantly, how did your week change? And 100% of the time people go, "Well, this happened. I had a great dinner with my wife. A former client came back and gave me a referral." You don't know what that is, the who, when, and where, but I know something's going to happen. I just can't tell you when, because I get asked that all the time. "Well, when is it going to happen?" Excuse me, sir, but you're becoming transactional in this type of business where we're building relationships and networking, where service comes to value.
That's good. So let's shift just a little bit. And I know that someone who's been doing this, we'll say since you were 18 years old, so that's a few years right now, a couple of years, that you've gotten some do's and some don'ts, some things to beware of, and always and nevers and stuff like that. Things that I'll call like skill or practices and all that. So Let's hit a few of those. And then as we wrap up, I want to talk about this alliance you've created and give some people some more information on that. Just
Absolutely.
do's and don'ts or always and nevers, however you want to go with it. I just want people to get some action steps here.
Yeah, just check yourself when you're talking to people. Donnie Bovin, I'll mention his name, is one of the top coaches out there. I jumped on a call with him and I started selling him. I was transactional. This is 3 or 4 years ago. And he stopped me and he goes, whoa, whoa, whoa. You don't know anything about me. Da, 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 da. Felt bad. I got off like, what an idiot. Man, I didn't get a sale. But he came on a podcast 3 years later and we talked about that and how I've changed and how he helped me change my mind. So it gives back to the practice. Whatever for you it takes is maybe you put a big word value on your computer screen as you meet people, or you go practice serving other people. Or one skill set is if you go search volunteers on the internet, there's 2 or 3 websites that will tell you how you can volunteer in your area. And I've shared that with a number of people. And then go out and serve. Go to a soup kitchen and feed the hungry. I just 2 weeks ago helped build a school, rebuild a school. We beautified it through my church. It's called Beautiful Day. I do that because it keeps me in that mode of serving. And it's a powerful service. I mean, we met the principal last night at our dinner and she was in tears. The family, the kids. And again, grasp that feeling of when you serve somebody. Even when you tell somebody their baby's cute, look at their reaction. Be aware of that, the smile that they get. Because again, we don't know the shoes that people are walking in. She could have be going through a divorce. She could have been lost her job. But that brief moment of service can make the impact in somebody's life. How can you impact people? Can you transactional or can you do it transformational? I'll let you guys answer that.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I agree with this, and sometimes I do this naturally. And so teaching someone how to do this is a little bit difficult. So I'm going to ask for what technique do you have that you can share for just meeting people, breaking the ice? You're doing your volunteer work, or you're on an airplane, or you're in the grocery store line, or you're somewhere. Because I get the feeling, and I'm this way too. I kind of have this 6 feet rule, which was interesting during COVID when they said, stay away from people 6 feet. I'm going, gosh, that's okay. So I'm going to go to the 10 feet rule. If they're within 10 feet, I'm talking to them. And, we had to be careful not to get up in their face then because some people didn't like that. But what are some practical techniques? What does Steve do when he just bumps into somebody out and about, not literally, but figuratively,
Yep.
and you're just kind of sharing or gathering info or talking? What are some applications there?
Top one is questions, questions, questions.
Give me some. Give me some of your best questions.
How long have you been working at Safeway? 2 years. Do you like it? Oh, I love it. It's such a good job. Are you going to school? Yeah. So you're paying for school? Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Or at church. Hey, it's nice to meet you. We do a welcome. People are afraid of that. They always say at church, you probably have it at your church. I know you introverts, you extroverts go to the other side of the room, which I'll sometimes do. But I'll ask a question. How long have you been at our church? You
Yeah.
enjoy it? What do you do? I have to be careful, Tim. I know you get this too. It's so easy for me, but I also know anybody can do it because I didn't do it 5 years ago. I just served people. And the other thing, 2 things you can do is before you jump on a call with somebody for your business, spend 5 minutes. Like the gentleman on Saturday, he's an ex-military, and I introduced him to 3 vets that could help his business and partner with him. And I did that right in the first 5 minutes. So that's another tip. Serve right away if you can.
Mhm.
He was blown away. And I don't know if I mentioned it here, but I've had 2 texts from me. So you completely changed my life. Well, that just spurs the energy of doing that. The other thing is, and this is the best tip I learned about 3.5 years ago, use people's names. Walk up to a restaurant, and here's 2 tips. So your restaurant, you see the name tag. Hey, Debbie, how you doing today? Great. Can we get some waters? Hey, Debbie, here's what we're going to order. Hey, Debbie, we're going to do this. Her energy level is completely changed because we're building a relationship. I'm not a hey man, hey sir type of person. I don't go to my best friend, go, hey, dude. I may see that, but I go, hey, sir, when are we going to get together? Hey, sir, when are we, I mean, we're going to say, hey, Mike Sullivan. Hey, Mike, how's it going? So doing that, when I learned that, blessings have come. And the other thing is be different. And I use restaurants for an example. I've interviewed over 100 rep managers. And I just did this moment because I want to write a book, how to be a better customer, not customer service, but be the other side of the table. Be a better customer. Don't yell at people. It's not their problem. Work with them, serve them. It just happened a couple of weeks ago at dinner with my wife, and the name was Libby. And I said, Libby, hey, thank you. You're fantastic. Can you do me a favor? Can you grab your manager? Oh, what's up? I said, just grab, and I do that purposely because I don't want to set it up. And you'll see him walk away. And an audience, try this. It's so cool. When they're good, be authentic. Don't just do it to do it. When you get a good waiter or waitress, do this. So I see them talking. I'm like, look at my wife's my I said, look. She goes, oh my God, they're working. The manager comes stomping over. I said, what's your name? It's Tony. Hey, Tony, I'm Steve. Nice to meet you. I got to tell you, Libby was so darn good. She was on top of it. She talked to my wife about her kids, and she was just very friendly. I asked this question. I said, Tony, how many times a year do you hear about how good your staff is? He goes, I've heard it 3 times in 10 years. 3 times I've been asked to come to a table and somebody said, hey, your wait staff is good. And it's been a year. That doesn't help anybody. So remember their names, help. And I was at a grocery store and it was a long line and this lady's screaming. We've been at a grocery store screaming. I said, ma'am, relax. She's like, I'm late. I got to be so, well, don't come to the grocery store. It's 6 o'clock in the afternoon. It's going to be busy. And they were short, you could tell, I think they were short staffed. So I went and grabbed the manager trying to be a servant and said, hey, anything I do, what's going on? He said, 4 people called in sick. First time in my 2 years here, I'm way short staffed. I've got people, I'm trying to scramble and find people. Well, a lot of people online heard that. And I turned to the lady, I said, a couple of things that can I share with you? I didn't scream, and don't scream at people like that. Just go, hey, you know what, 6 o'clock, it's probably a busy time. Yeah, but I had to pick up some things. I said, yeah. Second thing is, did you hear what he just said? They're short staffed. He's trying his best. So does your screaming in reality help the situation or hurt the situation? What you think about that? She got a little perturbed. Then she goes, yeah, I agree. She put her groceries down and left because she was late. Got a standing ovation. I didn't do it for that. That's what we do as servants' hearts. It can happen in our personal life, in our business life. Live your life that way.
Yeah, the good thing is maybe just calling someone out, you don't want to throw somebody under the bus, but just calling them out might cause her to
Yep.
reflect and make a change too. Sometimes we need that jolt. Steve, how about, one thing to help people remember you, I told you this before we hit record. That's one of the advantages of my lifestyle. Like I said earlier, I let people know I'm like uncanny able to remember first names. Last names, I don't memorize as much, but I could go into a room with 30, 40 people and within a short period of time have all their first names. I think there's extreme value to that, which kind of wants me to transition a little bit here in our last few minutes to business settings, because I know you mentioned earlier you were at conferences, and I know that you have built this community with millionaires, billionaires, business people, people that do certain things. So let's talk about, I do think that people need to do that in their everyday life, but talk about being in more business settings. What are some do's and don'ts or things that you do if like you're going to a conference, you're flying to Orlando and you're going to be there for 3 days, you're around a bunch of either business people or entrepreneurs, engineers, whatever it's going to be. What's your mindset? What are some techniques that you're using just to make that a productive networking time?
We'll start with the don'ts.
Yay.
Don't pitch. Amen. I knew you'd like that, Tim. Don't pitch. Don't be transactional, ever. Don't be negative. Don't have negative energy. The other thing is try to meet as many people as you can, but don't meet them to be transactional. This ties to the transactional. Because I've seen people do that. Like, I'm just going to meet everybody in this room and I know I'll get a client out of it. No, bad mindset to me. It works. So that's why people do it, Tim, but I don't like that. Here's some great do's. Mention people's name. Tim. Hey, Tim, nice to meet you. Tim, what do you do? Tell me what you do. Tim, I heard you say you do SEO. How long have you been doing that? Oh, Tim, that's really cool. You got those kind of clients? Man, you're a rock star. Well, thank you. You see what I did there? I said your name multiple times so you remember. I learned this tip. It's not my tip, but learned it 5 years ago. But edification. People are like, well, I don't know him. How can I edit it? Well, if you tell me you're an SEO and you work with McDonald's, for example, that's a rock star business. You did SEO with them. You're a rock star. Or they talk about, hey, I've got clients, they stay with me for years, like you had mentioned. Yeah, that's awesome. That's my goal. How'd you do it? Not only do you edify them, you ask for help, advice, tips. People are so willing to help most of the time. It's great. Then what you want to be is think of ways that you can bring them tips and resources. They mentioned that I want to start a podcast. Well, you know what, Tony, I've got a free podcast mentor workshop. Why don't you come? Love to have you. Holy moly. Yeah, I love it. Oh, here, let me get your email and I'll get you set up. I'll get you an invite. Imagine doing that to everybody in that room. You're going to be remembered. Talk about remembering names. They're going to remember Steve Ramona. They'll probably remember my last name. The other thing is when you're in business mode, meeting people in person and you become transactional, they're very interested in what you're coaching. Let's just use that. And you say, hey, it's $10,000 for 6 months. And I do this, this, and this. And they go, you know what? No, I'm not ready. I don't have the money or, this is happening. Don't get down. Don't be upset. Don't show that energy. Here's what I tell you to do. Serve them even more. Well, Tony, I appreciate that. I'll follow up with you and see when you're ready. But I heard you say something about this. I'm going to introduce you to Jim. I think you guys would be great partners. I want to ask, when you do that and you get a no and you keep serving and bringing value, are you going to be remembered as the good guy? We know the answer to that. I've done it many times, and I've had a lot of mentees that I've worked with do that, and then months later, they get a call from that person or an email. Hey, I'm ready to go. Because you're memorable because of the value you bring. Now, you could do negative stuff. You're memorable for the wrong reason, but you could also be memorable for the good things that you do.
Yeah, that's good. And it speaks to that long-term mindset versus short-term. So what do you do to stay organized, to keep up with things? You leave that conference in Orlando and, if there's 300 people in the room, you've probably met, I would have fun. You've probably met all of them or almost all of them. And, there's business cards, there's things to do on our phones now, there's stuff like that. Tell me just a little bit practical of what do you do when you leave there with all of that information you've gathered?
Great question. I'm doing that. I was in Utah last week and I met 10 new people. Hey, text me your number and put in there what you need. Like Emma, who I met last week, wants to be introduced to a couple people. Another guy, Owen Ellis, wanted to be in my podcast, so I sent him the link. Follow up right away, within that week because of energy and your word. You said you'd follow up with that stuff. So I use text, but I use a software called The Brain. There's Go High Level. There's so much software out there, but you do want to keep track of it because the follow-up is so cool as well. Hey, how'd those introductions go? Oh man, they're great. Thank you so much. And then you can start another conversation like, hey, let's jump on another call. It's been a few months. Let's follow up. Half my calls are follow-ups now.
Yeah, I actually love just going through my texts and say, you know what, I haven't talked to Steve in a while. Let me say, hey man, Steve, checking in. You and I talked about blah, blah, blah. What were the results of that? How'd that go? Something like that. That's powerful. I think a lot of people just need to follow up. I think it's moving into that transformational. I love the theme that we're developing here. It's more of that transformation. Something that you obviously have done well, Steve, but I think it's probably you were prepared for this most of your life, is you are now gathering people with Pantheon Alliance. I think it's called a mastermind, but it's interesting, alliance and mastermind, bringing those two words together. I looked at that. I'm going, is it an alliance or mastermind or both? Probably yes. But tell me a little bit about that and maybe how some of your contacts from that conference in Orlando or wherever it was have moved into there. You could use names or no names, whatever. Just how has that moved to now this group that you are I'm guessing you're the connector for all of those in the group or something like that. Just tell me more.
Yeah, the word that people used over the week was Rolodex.
Let me
Was
pause you one
highly,
second. Let me pause
yeah,
you 1 second, Steve. For those that were born after 1990, a Rolodex was this thing you used to have. You would spin and have little cards that slip in and out and all.
that was very, very good. I can say my CRM. That's the new term we want to use. But what we do is we do partnerships. We help guys develop events. We've got a couple guys this in October are doing an event in Costa Rica, speaking and educating and influencing people, and also building a network. All of our events is about networking, getting together with high income producing people that may fit with what you do, but also showing them how to integrate these, like I said earlier, the virtual integration marketing, how it could fit. But we need to meet people. And a big lesson that I learned, if you want to scale and make millions and billions of dollars, if that's your goal, it doesn't have to be. I feel more abundance. It's a word I use. The more I can serve people, you need to be around those people. You will not be a millionaire working with people in network marketing companies. Nothing wrong with them. It's not what I'm saying. Because I used to run 6 networking groups, and there were people probably making no more than 100,000 a year. I wasn't going to meet millionaires and billionaires. So I left that to start my podcast. And that's when I started meeting very successful people and now bringing them to the alliance when they're a fit, partnering up with them or having them partner up with other people. So that's what we do. We get together monthly. We host events and bring in people and talk about what they do.
Sounds fun. I enjoy that kind of stuff.
Me too.
Steve, there's a couple of questions I've got to wrap up. But before I do, is there anything else that you want to tell that person that's still listening into this conversation, something that I may have missed or just something that's on your heart, something you want to share, the Holy Spirit nudge, whatever it is?
Amen. Thank you, because there is always something. Audience, get better 1% every day. Serve one person today. Serve another person tomorrow. And then maybe the third day you serve 2 people. Or you check your emails. Just get better 1% every day. We're in October. So that's 3 months. That's approximately 100 days. If you increased 100% your productivity by getting better 1% every day, I want you to think about how much better you'd be and how fast you'd grow.
That's good. It reminded me of a book I read from Pat Riley called The Winner Within. And when they were winning their 2, 3 championships, his book talked about getting a percentage better every year, even after they won the championship. So that's awesome. Great tips.
That's very good.
Being a connector, one of my final questions I usually ask is, how can people connect with you, Steve? Where do you want to send them? If someone says, man, I got to get more Steve, where do you want people to go? We'll include it in the notes and all that kind of stuff, but tell people where to find you.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. Steve Ramona, Ramona on LinkedIn. I live there. I think it's a great business platform. The other thing is email me, Steve R 1961 at Gmail. Here's my office number, 408-642-6288. You can text me or call me, tell you about my free workshops. I do a business workshop as well for free, and I'll get you the information, or you just have a question. Just reach out anytime.
Very cool. I love when people put their birth year and their email addresses. That tells me a lot about them. A little bit about our age. At least you didn't have a Hotmail account or something like that. You're reaching at Hotmail,
AOL.com.
CompuServe. Man, we're just showing off our age badge. Anyway,
We are.
Hey, Steve, we're Seek, Go, Create. Those 3 words describe what we do here. They have roots in a lot of cool stuff, but I'm going to allow you to choose one of those: Seek, Go, or Create. Which one do you choose and why?
Every day, your 1% should be creating service, creating value. 1% every day. And you do 3% tomorrow, you're ahead of the game. Create value, which creates service, a servant's heart, and you'll be so happy.
Steve Ramona, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you
Thank you.
sharing all about the servant heart. Just a reminder, the podcast is Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. If you are listening to this on your podcast player right now, as soon as I finish, go over, do a quick search, and we'll probably have links below anyway, but you can subscribe, listen in there. great content, great. It's concise. I like it. I love having hour-long conversations. Steve's good at 30-minute ones, so that's a good thing. Go check that out. Check out everything, Steve. And I recommend you shoot him a message and connect with him, because I can tell, because of the heart he has, he loves connecting with new people. That's very exciting. Thanks for listening in here at Seek Go Create. We've got new episodes every Monday on YouTube, all your podcast platforms. Until next time, continue being all that you were created to be.